You're rich. The kids will live with you. The words hit me across the table at a diner off Main Street. They were spoken by my sister, Vanessa, who was 32, pregnant for the third time, and looked like she was announcing something worth celebrating. She sat with her hands folded over her belly, oblivious to the bomb she'd just dropped. Rich. I'm 35, a mechanical engineer at Pinehurst Foundry in Billings, Montana. I've spent the last 12 years building a simple, stable life. I own a modest, paid-off 3-bedroom house on the west side of town. I drive a paid-off truck and I have a decent retirement fund. I am not rich. I am just responsible. I stared at her, trying to process it. Her 2 kids, Mia, 5, and Cody, 7, were coloring quietly on the paper placemats. They were good kids. A little too quiet for their age, maybe. Did you hear me? She prodded. I heard you, I finally said. So? I set my fork down. So what? So are you going to help me or not? I glanced at Mia, who was drawing a flower, and Cody, who was scribbling what might have been a dinosaur. Either of them looked up. Vanessa, I began, you want me to take your kids for a few months while you have another baby? Not a few months. Just until I deliver and feel well enough to handle all 3. Maybe 2 months. 3 at most. 3 at most. Right. And where is their father going to be during all of this? She rolled her eyes. Which one? I didn't laugh. She genuinely thought that was funny, but it wasn't. The new one, I clarified. The one who got you pregnant this time. He's not really in the picture right now. What does that mean? It means he's figuring things out. I just stared at her. Dumped 2 kids on me. Have a 3rd baby with a man who was figuring things out and pick them all up when it was convenient. This was her plan. No, I said. Her face went blank. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. I'm not doing this. Why not? They're your family. Family doesn't mean I'm responsible for your choices, I shot back. She leaned back, crossing her arms. Wow, that's cold. It's not cold. It's the truth. You have a 3-bedroom house, Henry. You live alone. You could easily take them. That's not the point, Vanessa. Then what is the point? I looked at Mia and Cody again, still focused on their drawings. I wondered how many conversations like this they'd overheard. The point, I said, my voice low, is that you keep doing this. You keep having kids you can't take care of, and you keep expecting other people to pick up the slack. I can take care of my kids. Can you? Then why are you asking me to take them? She had no answer. She just looked at me like I was the villain. I finished my cold coffee, pulled out my wallet, and dropped enough cash for my half of the bill. I'm not doing it, I stated as I stood up. Find another solution. You're really going to walk out on me? I'm walking out on a bad idea. There's a difference. I leaned down and ruffled Cody's hair. He looked up and smiled, and I felt a brief, painful wish that things were different for these kids. But they were not my responsibility. Not like this. I left the diner. Vanessa didn't follow me. She didn't call. I told myself that was the end of it. That night, sitting with a beer, I thought about how predictable Vanessa's life had become. Dropping out of college, moving in with a guy she barely knew, the parade of men who all left, each one swearing that this time it was different. Mia's father paid some child support from Washington. Cody's was gone completely. And now number 3, who was figuring things out. I should have felt only pity. Part of me did, but mostly I was just exhausted. Exhausted from watching the same mistakes, tired of listening to her blame everyone but herself for the fallout. I finished my beer and went to bed, convinced I'd done the right thing by setting a boundary. A week passed in silence. I assumed she'd found someone else, our mom maybe, or a friend. I didn't ask. Then on the following Saturday morning, I heard a knock. I opened the door and there stood Mia and Cody, each clutching a small suitcase. Mia held Cody's hand, her eyes wide. Mommy told us to wait here, she whispered. I stepped outside. Vanessa's car was gone. The street was empty. Where's your mom? I asked, sinking down to their level. She just dropped you off. Yeah, Cody piped up. She said you would take care of us. I stood up, phone already in my hand. I called Vanessa. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I sent a text. What the hell are you doing? No response. The kids were just staring at me, waiting. All right. I sighed. Come inside. I brought their suitcases in, sat them down, and made them sandwiches and milk. They ate quietly while I stood in the kitchen, frantically calling and texting Vanessa. Still nothing. I considered calling my mom, but I knew the script. She's overwhelmed, Henry. She's pregnant. Just take care of them. She always enabled Vanessa. I decided to wait. Maybe it was a twisted joke and she'd be back in an hour. She didn't come back. By evening, I was furious. I set them up in the guest room, finding old blankets to make the bed comfortable. Mia helped Cody brush his teeth. I stood in the hall and listened to them talk. "Do you think Mommy's okay?" Cody asked. "She's fine," Mia said too confidently. "She just needs to rest." "Why didn't she tell us she was leaving?" "She did tell us. She said Uncle Henry would take care of us." I leaned against the wall, closing my eyes. These kids were innocent casualties. They didn't deserve this chaos. I tucked them in. Mia thanked me. Cody was asleep almost instantly. I went back to the living room and waited for her to call. She didn't call that night or the next morning. By Sunday afternoon, I was done. I called Mom. "Henry, how are you?" "Not great. Vanessa dumped her kids on my doorstep yesterday and hasn't answered my call since." A long pause. "What do you mean she dumped them?" "I mean she literally dropped them off with suitcases and drove away." "Oh, Henry, she's probably just overwhelmed." "That's not an excuse." "I know, but she's pregnant, she's stressed. You know how she gets, and I don't care how she gets. She can't just abandon her kids." She didn't abandon them. "She left them with you. Without asking, without warning." I said no to this plan. My mom sighed. "What do you want me to do?" "Call her. Tell her to come get them." "I'll try, but you know how she is. She doesn't always listen. Make her listen." She hung up. I knew she wouldn't do anything. She never did. I spent the rest of the day with Mia and Cody. Park, ice cream, trying to make things normal while watching the worry in Mia's young eyes. She was carrying too much weight. That night I realized I couldn't keep them indefinitely. I had a job and I was not equipped to raise 2 children. But I couldn't send them back to Vanessa either. Not when she was clearly spiraling. I had set a boundary and she had utterly ignored it. I was trapped. Monday came and I called in sick. I couldn't leave them alone and I had no child care. I spent the day trying Vanessa again, no answer. Mom hadn't heard from her. On Tuesday afternoon my phone rang. It was Vanessa. "Where the hell have you been?" I demanded. "I've been busy." "Busy? You abandoned your kids." "I didn't abandon them. I left them with you." "Without asking." I said no. "That means you don't get to dump them on me anyway." She was quiet for a moment. Then, defensively, "I needed help, Henry. I didn't know what else to do." "You could have figured something else out." "Like what?" "I don't know. Literally anything other than this." "Well, it's too late now. They're with you. Just keep them for a few weeks until I have the baby." "No, Vanessa, no. Come get them today." "I can't. I don't have the energy. I'm pregnant. I'm exhausted. I need rest. That's not my problem." "Yes, it is. You're their uncle. You're supposed to help." My jaw tightened. "I'm done with this conversation. Come get your kids or I'm calling the police." She laughed. It was a bitter, sharp sound. "Go ahead," she said. "Call them. See what happens." Then she hung up. She was daring me. I stood there, phone in hand, and truly considered calling the police. But I ran through the scenario. 2 kids show up at my house. Their mother says I agreed to it. It becomes a he said, she said mess, and Mia and Cody get caught in the system. I didn't call the police. Not yet. Instead, I started documenting everything. I took screenshots of our text messages, wrote down the timeline of when she dropped them off, and recorded a voice memo explaining my side of the story. I needed ironclad proof that I had never consented to this. On Wednesday morning, I was making breakfast when there was a knock. I opened the door to find 2 police officers on my porch. "Henry?" one of them asked. "Yeah. We received a call about 2 minors at this residence." "Can we come in?" My stomach dropped. "What kind of call?" "A concerned family member reported that you may have taken custody of 2 children without proper consent." "Are you kidding me?" I stepped aside, letting them in. Mia and Cody were sitting at the kitchen table eating cereal. "Are those the children?" the officer asked. "Yes," I said. "But I didn't take them. Their mother dropped them off without asking and hasn't come back." "Do you have any documentation to support that?" "Yes, I have everything." I pulled out my phone and showed him the text messages, the timeline. I explained what had happened. He listened and took notes. "Sir, we're going to need to verify this with the children's mother." "Good luck." "She's not answering her phone." He tried twice, no answer. The other officer spoke to the kids. "Hey kids, can you tell me what happened?" Mia looked at me. I gave a small nod. "Mommy dropped us off," she said. She said Uncle Henry would take care of us. Did Uncle Henry ask her to bring you here? Mia shook her head. No. Mommy just said we had to stay here for a little while. The officer turned to me. And you didn't agree to this? No, I told her I wouldn't take them. She did it anyway. He looked at his partner and they stepped outside to talk. When they returned, the first officer said, "We're going to contact the mother and have her come pick up the children. In the meantime, they can stay here with you, but we'll need to file a report." That's fine, I said. After they left, I closed the door, my hands shaking. Mia walked over to me. Are we in trouble? She asked. No, I managed. You're not in trouble. Is Mommy in trouble? I didn't know how to answer that. I crouched down and looked her in the eyes. Everything's going to be okay. She nodded, but I knew she didn't believe me. And honestly, I wasn't sure I believed it either. I was now tangled up in a situation I desperately tried to avoid, and it was only getting worse. What do you think your next immediate step should be now that the police have been involved? Are you going to wait for them to contact Vanessa? Or do you have a plan B? An hour later, my phone rang. It was Vanessa, and she was furious. You called the cops on me? You called the cops on me first, I countered, my own anger rising. That's different. How is it different? Because I was trying to protect my kids? Protect them from what? I didn't do anything. You just refused to help me. That's not a crime. Vanessa. She didn't respond, but I could hear her sharp, ragged breathing on the other end. The police are on their way to your place, I stated clearly. You need to come get Mia and Cody. Fine, she spat. But don't think this is over. It is over. You don't get to pull this kind of thing anymore. She hung up. I collapsed onto the couch, putting my head in my hands. I was completely drained, exhausted, angry, and most of all relieved. The officers had seen through her nonsense. They had listened and believed me, but a deep, cold certainty settled in my stomach. This was absolutely not the end. Vanessa never let anything go. She showed up 2 hours later. No knock, just the door swinging open as she walked in like she owned the place. Mia and Cody were watching TV in the living room. Mommy! Cody cried, running straight to her. She hugged him, but her eyes, cold and blazing, were locked on mine. Get your things, she commanded the kids. Mia stood up slowly. Are we going home? Yes, we're leaving. I watched them gather their small suitcases. Cody was happy, not understanding the gravity of the situation. Mia did, though. She cast one quick, worried glance back at me before following her mother out the door. Vanessa never said a word to me. She just left. I closed the door and stood in the absolute quiet of my empty living room. It was quieter than it had been before they arrived. I told myself, it's for the best. It's over. I should have felt victorious, but it felt hollow. It felt like I had failed the kids somehow. I went back to work the next day. I told my supervisor I had a family emergency, and he thankfully didn't press for details. I tried to move on, work, home, routine, but I couldn't stop thinking about Mia and Cody. Were they safe? Was Vanessa taking care of them? The following Saturday afternoon, my mom called. Henry, we need to talk. About what? I asked, sinking onto the couch. What did she do now? About Vanessa. She's been calling me all week. She's upset. She says you humiliated her in front of the police. She called the cops on me, Mom. I didn't do anything. I know, but she's saying you made her look like a bad mother. She made herself look like a bad mother. She abandoned her kids. She didn't abandon them. She left them with you, without my permission. My mom sighed deeply. I know this is hard, Henry, but she's family. She's going through a difficult time. She's always going through a difficult time. That doesn't give her the right to dump her responsibilities on me. I'm not saying she was right. I'm just saying maybe you could have handled it differently. Calling the police was extreme. I didn't call the police, she did. And for the record, the police sided with me. Well, Mom said, ignoring me, she's upset and she wants you to apologize. I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. Apologize for what? For embarrassing her? No, Mom, I'm not apologizing. She was wrong. She knows she was wrong, and I'm done pretending otherwise. There was a long, heavy silence. She's talking about cutting you off, Mom finally said. She says she doesn't want you in her life anymore. Good, that's fine with me. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. Just think about it, please, she said before hanging up. I stared at the wall. I was angry at Vanessa, angry at my mom for enabling her, angry at the whole ridiculous situation. But mostly I was just tired Tired of being the responsible one expected to fix everyone else's messes. Vanessa wanted to cut me off? Fine. Maybe that was the only way to get peace. The peace didn't last. The following Tuesday, I got a call from Mia's school principal. Mia hadn't been in school for 3 days. They'd tried calling Vanessa repeatedly with no response and were calling me for information. I told them I had none, but promised to try and reach her. I called Vanessa. No answer. I sent a text. The school called. Mia hasn't been there in 3 days. What's going on? No response. I called my mom. She hadn't heard from Vanessa in a week and was worried too. That night I drove to Vanessa's apartment. I knocked. No answer. The lights were off. I walked around back and peered through a window. The place looked empty. I called Vanessa again. This time she answered. What do you want? She snapped. Where are you? None of your business. The school called. Mia hasn't been there in days. Where is she? She's fine. That's not an answer. Where is she? She's with me. We're staying with a friend. For how long? I don't know, Henry. Until I figure things out. Vanessa, you can't just pull her out of school. I can do whatever I want. She's my kid. She needs to be in school. She'll go back when I'm ready. She actually laughed, that same cold, biting sound. You don't get to tell me how this works. You're not her father. You're not even her guardian. You're just the guy who refused to help when I needed it. My jaw clenched tight. I'm not doing this with you again. Good, then stop calling me. She hung up. I sat in my truck, stunned. She was keeping Mia out of school, bouncing around, clearly spiraling again, and she was using my refusal to enable her as a weapon. The next morning, I called the school back. I explained everything and told the principal I was seriously concerned about Mia's well-being. He said they would file a report with Child Protective Services, CPS. 2 days later, I got a call from a social worker named Patricia. She had been assigned to Vanessa's case and wanted to meet. We met at a coffee shop downtown. Patricia was a calm, composed woman in her 50s with short gray hair. She took notes while I detailed the entire chronology. The pregnancy announcement, the demand, the doorstep abandonment, the police visit, and now, the missed school days. She didn't seem surprised. This isn't the first time Vanessa has been on our radar, she revealed. What do you mean? We've had reports before, concerns about living conditions, missed doctor's appointments, things like that. We investigated and Vanessa made some changes. Things improved for a while, but it sounds like she's slipping again. So what happens now? We'll do a home visit. We'll assess the situation and determine whether the children are safe. And if they're not, then we'll take appropriate action. I nodded, staring at my coffee cup after she left. It wasn't the ideal answer, but it was the only real path forward. Mia and Cody were just kids caught in their mother's unrelenting chaos. I wanted to help them, and now CPS was involved. 3 long weeks went by. Silence from Vanessa, silence from Patricia. Waiting was the hardest part. The next morning, Patricia from CPS called. Henry, I wanted to update you on Vanessa's case, she said. We've completed our assessment. The children are not in immediate danger, but the living situation is unstable. We've given Vanessa 30 days to secure stable housing and demonstrate consistent care. And if she doesn't, then we'll move forward with removing the children from her custody. We'll try to place them with a family member if possible. If not, they'll go into foster care. I was quiet for a moment. The thought of Mia and Cody being strangers in the system was unacceptable. If it comes to that, I said, my voice steady, I'll take them. Patricia paused. Are you sure? That's a big commitment, I know. But they're my niece and nephew. I'm not going to let them end up in the system. All right, I'll make a note of that. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. I spent the next few weeks preparing. I cleaned the guest room, bought bunk beds, stocked the fridge, and researched schools. I spoke to my supervisor about adjusting my work schedule. I had to be ready. 3 weeks later, the call came. Henry, it's Patricia. Vanessa has failed to meet the requirements. We're moving forward with temporary removal of the children. Can you take them? Yes. We'll bring them to you this afternoon. A few hours later, Patricia was at my door with Mia and Cody, each carrying the same small suitcases. Mia didn't seem surprised. Are we staying here again? She asked. Yeah, I said. For a while. Patricia handed me the temporary custody paperwork. You'll have a court date in 60 days. We'll reassess the situation then. After she left, I made them dinner. We ate in silence. I showed them the new bunk beds. Mia took the top. Is Mommy okay? Cody asked. She's going through some stuff, I said gently. But she'll be all right. You're safe here, and I'm going to take care of you. I sat in the living room that night staring at the ceiling. I had 2 kids now. I didn't know the first thing about raising children, but I had no choice. I had to figure it out. The first few weeks were a relentless cycle of early mornings, packed lunches, school runs, homework, dinner, and bedtime stories. It was exhausting, but strangely rewarding. Mia started to open up, sharing stories about school. Cody relaxed, laughing and playing more. They seemed less worried. I felt for the first time like I was doing something right. Vanessa, of course, was furious. She called one night, "You took my kids. They were removed because you weren't taking care of them." I told them the truth. You had no right. I had every right. Trying isn't enough when kids are involved. I'm going to get them back, she vowed. Good, I hope you do. But you need to get your life together first. She hung up. The 60-day court date arrived. Vanessa showed up looking thin and tired, her belly noticeably bigger. The judge reviewed the case. Vanessa's answers about housing, employment, and her plan for the new baby were vague. The judge turned to me. Mr. Henry, the children are doing well in your care. They're going to school. They're healthy. They're adjusting. Are you able to continue providing care for them? Yes, Your Honor. The judge extended my temporary custody for another 60 days. Vanessa stood up, defeated. Your Honor, please. Miss Vanessa, I'm not terminating your parental rights. You will have visitation, but full custody remains with your brother. A few weeks later, I got a call from the hospital. Vanessa had gone into labor and listed me as her emergency contact. I found her alone in the delivery room. You came? She asked, looking surprised. Yeah, you're still my sister. I stayed for the next 6 hours until the baby girl, tiny and beautiful, was born. As the nurse placed the baby in her arms, Vanessa started to cry. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. Be a mom to 3 kids. Then don't, I said, sitting beside her. What? If you don't think you can do it, then don't. Let someone else raise them. Let them have a stable life. She looked at the baby, then back at me. You mean let you raise them? I mean let someone raise them who can actually take care of them. Whether that's me or someone else, I love them, she said softly. I know you do, but love isn't enough. After a long silence, she said, What if I sign over custody to you? I hadn't expected the offer. Are you serious? Maybe, I don't think I can do this anymore. You need to think about it before you make that decision. This has to be permanent. I know, she said. I've been thinking about it for weeks. She looked completely broken. The next day, Vanessa signed the paperwork, giving me full custody of Mia and Cody. She decided to keep the baby, Ruby, saying she wanted one more chance to do it right. I didn't argue. 6 months passed. Mia and Cody settled into their new life. They stopped asking when they were going home and started calling my house home. Mia joined the school choir. Cody made the soccer team. They had routine, stability, and they were happy. Vanessa called once a week to check in. She said she had a small apartment and a job at a grocery store taking care of Ruby. I wanted to believe her, but I was guarded. Then Patricia called. Henry, Vanessa has filed a petition to regain custody of Mia and Cody. She's requesting a hearing. My chest tightened. I had spent 6 months building this life, and she wanted to tear it down. Do we have to go back? Mia asked, her face pale when I told them. I don't know yet. A judge will decide. I don't want to go back, she whispered. Can we stay here? Cody asked. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you do. I hired a sharp lawyer named Julia. We spent 2 weeks gathering everything, the text messages, the police report, the school records, the pediatrician's statements, proof that the children were thriving with me. The day of the hearing, we sat in the courthouse hallway. Vanessa was there holding Ruby, looking put together and determined. The hearing was a battle. Vanessa's lawyer spoke of her changes, stable housing, a job, parenting classes. Then Julia took over, presenting the evidence of Vanessa's past instability and the social worker's reports. She called me to the stand to describe the kids' progress. Then Mia was called. She looked terrified. But when the judge asked her where she wanted to live, she looked back at him and said quietly, With Uncle Henry. Vanessa's face crumpled. The judge reviewed the evidence. Miss Vanessa loves her children and has made efforts, he stated. However, The evidence shows a pattern of instability that directly impacted their well-being. The court's primary concern is the best interest of the children. He banged the gavel. Full custody will remain with Mr. Henry. Vanessa filed an appeal, but it was denied. She was granted supervised visits, but after 3 no-shows, she stopped coming altogether. She called once to say she couldn't handle seeing the kids when she couldn't have them back. My mom was disappointed, saying I had taken Vanessa's children. I told her Vanessa had done that to herself. We didn't talk much after that, but the kids were happy. Mia made honor roll. Cody made the travel soccer team. They had dreams and hope. A year later, I legally adopted them. Vanessa didn't contest it. She had moved to another state with Ruby. Life moved forward. I learned how to be a parent. I showed up. That was all they needed. Vanessa reached out once more 2 years after the hearing, crying late one night, saying she wanted to see them. I told her she could visit any time, but she never called back. I heard through Mom that she had another baby, and she was struggling again. I refused to help. I had my own 2 kids to raise. Years later, I ran into Vanessa at a grocery store. She looked older, worn down. "Henry," she said, hesitating. "Vanessa, they're good. Mia is in medical school. Cody's working as a paramedic," she offered, a sad smile. "I was wrong about everything. You were right to take them. I didn't take them. You gave them up. I know," she conceded, "but you saved them. And I'm grateful for that." I simply nodded. She walked away. I built a good life with Mia and Cody. I showed them what stability looked like. I showed them that love meant showing up every single day. They called me Dad. I never asked them to. They just started doing it one day. And in the end, that was all that mattered.